Hello, I'm your host Jim McLean. Welcome back to another episode of the Banterflix Movie Review Show. Let's see what we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Black Phone 2, which is out in cinemas now. We'll be speaking with some of the cast of Young Sherlock Holmes, who were recently in Belfast to celebrate the film's 40th anniversary. I'll be chatting with film critic Ryan Gilby, who'll be attending an event at the QFT later this month. And we'll wrap up with our DVD of the week, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So that's what we've lined up for you this week. Joining me in the studio here in Belfast is two talented filmmakers and two good friends, Bill Taylor.
Hi, Jim.
And Brian Mulholland.
Hello, Jim.
Hello to you both. First time in the new studio, so great to have you in. How have you been, gentlemen? We're on the eve. The Belfast Film Festival is nearly upon us. Lucy Liu is going to be visiting the city along with other people as well. I'm sure we will be showcasing that in the next few episodes. Bill, Brian, you excited about the film festival arriving here in the city?
Always am. Always love the Belfast Film Festival. Don't get to as much as I used to. Time, unfortunately, in real life. But I'm looking for. I'm endeavouring to try to get to more of this festival. But it's always great for international and local filmmakers. You know.
There's always something within the programme. It's an eclectic mix as always. Great to see the Altered States strand back. Loads. Bill, what about you? There's always something for everybody at the festival.
Yeah, I mean, I usually go to one or two things where I can. Always supporting the Banterflix elements as well. I don't know what's tickled my fancy. I'm pretty busy over the next couple of weeks anyway with the Ghostbusters stuff, and it's Halloween, so.
Because you guys have a screening up in Ballymena, I believe.
Yeah, we do. We're joined up with the Fright Club, Danny and the lads. They know who they are. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. We've got an Ecto 1 and everything coming, nice. So yeah, it's pretty heavy on now for the next couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to Halloween. So.
Yeah, you're a busy boy, as am I. We have our own film festival, Belfast International Horror Festival, that kicks off. So we will be busy over Halloween. Brian, I'm sure you'll be doing up to wonderful things. You might be trick-or-treating with your young son. Any plans for costumes?
Pumpkins earlier, yes. We're bang into the season. Halloween, yep, great, fantastic. Pumpkin carving during the day, horror movies at night. It's all good.
Living the dream. Okay, well look, that is Halloween. Yes, there's going to be loads of things coming up and loads of things going on. And we've mentioned the Belfast Film Festival. Another festival that's currently going on here in the city is Cinemagic. And the lovely Claire Shaw got in touch with me and offered me an interview with three actors that are here for a special screening of Young Sherlock Holmes, which this year celebrates its 40th anniversary. It's a movie I absolutely loved when I was growing up. Barry Levinson, Chris Columbus, Steven Spielberg. So I jumped at the chance whenever they were offered to ourselves at the QFT. And here's that interview.
Before a lifetime of adventure came the adventure of a lifetime.
What's your name?
Holmes. Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, I've never quite got to the bottom of it all, but I'm guessing
So Cinemagic is delighted to be able to host a 40th anniversary screening of Young Sherlock Holmes. So yes, 1985 it first came out, and we are delighted that we have been able to reunite the original cast. And it is such a treat just to have them together and really to reminisce about the film. It is such a much loved film, but it's brilliant as well to be able to introduce it to new, younger audiences who maybe haven't seen it before, and just to really celebrate the classic film that it is.
The thing that occurs to me, again, particularly part of the Cinemagic Festival, is that this, of course, was a family movie. And it was geared as a family movie, and it was part of that stable of films that came out in the mid-'80s, along with Goonies and Back to the Future, where it's almost like Steven Spielberg and his colleagues were finding an identity of their own as they were making these pieces of family entertainment. So remembering that in a way there was an imperative about introducing people to the stories of Sherlock Holmes, as much as, like in the Harry Potter films, of getting kids to think about difficult emotions and death and loss and separation from family, that all finds itself in the story that's being told, and the kind of the mystery behind, the dreaming into a literary icon in a way that was meant to be accessible to the youth of the mid-80s.
Well, it's always quite extraordinary to think that it's been so long. Obviously, the years flash by, and it feels quite fresh in my memory because it was such a memorable experience making the film. And I'm very fond of the film. And somebody just gave us the LP from the soundtrack that the composer had made. So I'm a little bit tearful, and it's a very wonderful occasion.
Stop! Isn't it valuable?
What's more important, its value or my sanity? I should have mastered the damn thing by now.
It should be said that I was kind of naive to the business because I wasn't a complete newcomer to film. I had done 5 weeks of naffing around on a film called Another Country, in which I was kind of pretty much a glorified extra, but I had a couple of lines and that was a thrill. I was being paid £300 a week and I had the experience of what film life was like, and I was completely in love with it. I didn't think I'd necessarily do it again, and I was told by my drama teacher at school that they were looking for Young Sherlock Holmes. They were looking for a Watson in this film that they were bringing to the screen. Barry Levinson involved. I didn't know any of these people. I'd heard Steven Spielberg's name, and it was a process, as I think Alan may have said. I mean, it was a long old process of sort of 5 or 6 auditions, and all starting at my school, and then we went off to I ended up in Elstree Studios, I think that's where it was, and that was my final screen test, and I heard about 4 weeks before we were due to start the film that I got the part. And I think, honestly, if I'd known what I know now, if I'd known then what I know now, I'd have been terrified through the whole process, because as the longer the process goes on to find this person, the more scary it gets. And I really didn't know very much about the whole thing. I was very green, and I was extremely lucky.
The sets were amazing. The interior of the hashtag spoilers of the Egyptian temple, also the sword fight on the ice floes, all on these huge sound stages in Elstree, and also they built this back lot of Victorian streets for all the carriage chases and what have you. So that was kind of, it's the, I remember as a kid going to the Universal Studios tour, and that was my place of work for the best part of 4 months. These huge sound studios and sound stages, and also this back lot.
Young people are in here watching both classics, as you say, and modern films. Gets them off their small screens, gets them seeing film where it should be seen, and really it's a magic experience in the cinema, and I hope that never goes away. More importantly, young people coming into the business, giving them an opportunity, showing them that it's not only sort of the wonderful thing, but that's something they can have too, and they can be part of. And that's what's wonderful about Cinemagic, as described to me by Joan last night, and various other chats I've had. Long may it continue. It's a brilliant initiative, and I hope that people will always feel that they can do whatever they do. Find a story, film it on your iPad, on your phone or whatever, and don't be scared to give it a go. And but there's more to it than that. Obviously, they're learning all sorts of amazing skills, and wow, skills I never had as a kid. So good on them, and I hope it continues.
Having these films that are older films being watched by younger people is amazing, but also the charity itself is amazing to help actors, young actors, or people who are going to do other jobs in the industry to understand that there is possible routes. It's definitely not easy, but that it's possible, and that telling your stories and telling other people's stories is really life-changing.
It's thrilling to think that a film has a long life. It makes it splash when it's released, and it's on all the publicity carousels. But the idea, like yourself, of people having an affection for the film, and it crossing the generations, and then people being introduced to it as a kind of private pleasure, and then when it gets platformed at a festival like this, it has an effect of awakening enthusiasm and maintaining a line, and that that's very thrilling as you get older. Nick, Sophie and I have worked together in separate endeavours, and we also enjoy each other's company. So for the festival to bring us all together to celebrate this event from 40 years ago feels like a real gift, a real sort of privilege. And we're joking about it, but we've had a fantastic time and been, looked after and hosted so well. It's just, thank you, Belfast.
Oh my God, they're going to kill her.
Stop! She's alive! Before the legend began.
So that's my interviews with Nicholas Rose, Alan Cox and Sophie Ward. As I say, absolute joy to get chatting to them about the film. A little excuse for me to indulge my love for Young Sherlock Holmes. That's a cult classic that's been recently back in cinemas. Let's look at something else that's available on the big screen.
Have you heard of the grabber? I killed him.
What happened in that basement really changed it. Finn, I had a bad dream. It was about missing kids.
So that's a look at the trailer for Black Phone 2, out in cinemas now. Brian, you haven't had a chance to see this because, being a family man and a working man kind of got in the way. So Grabber's back. Scott Derrickson is here back as director, previously Sinister, Doctor Strange, because you mentioned Benedict Cumberbatch. His full title, Benedict, not whatever you called him. Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, I liked it. I particularly liked the first film anyway. I thought Ethan Hawke was so creepy and sort of having a nice resurgence, I suppose. This film sort of picks up a couple of years after the original, so it's the same brother and sister. I particularly enjoyed the fact that it pays more attention to the sister this time rather than the brother. So we get another perspective on things, and she's still dreaming, and she's got the shining or the touch or whatever, and so does he to a certain respect as well. And what I really liked about this was, though, it gave us answers to the first film. I liked the way that you always knew where you were, whether you were in reality or in dream world. If you were in dream world, you got the film footage kind of thing, the sound, so you knew where you were at every time. They weren't playing with that too much, but the music got me. It was as soon as I was in the cinema watching it, and yeah, I was just sitting there, and I was engaged as you normally are, and I was eating my popcorn and maybe the odd time having a look around, not get my phone out or anything because I'm not rude, but it was as soon as Another Brick in the Wall, part one, as soon as I heard the bass line and a couple of the guitar riffs, it was like, I'm in. It was like the grabber got me by the neck and just pushed me right at the screen. And
hopefully not literally, though.
Not literally.
Or anybody else.
You just had me. And the reason it had me was because that's also in The Faculty, which we've screened as part of Banterflix. And it immediately sort of put me in that mind space of, right, this is one of my, it's one of my favourite songs for favourite films, so I'm here, you've got me. So it was nice, it was a pretty good film. Like I say, leans more into the supernatural, which I liked. Give us answers, and yes, it is a bit of Freddy Krueger-y kind of stuff going on.
We have a film that's taken ideas from Friday the 13th. You've mentioned The Shining. We have, other various horror movies thrown into the mix, but most importantly, we have a bit of Nightmare on Elm Street coming in, because the dream elements, just a bit of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. It was a lot of fun, and what I loved, you mentioned Ethan Hawke. He's clearly having a ball playing this role, playing the bad guy, and he's someone... I've had this argument with a lot of people recently. He's a villain that's just a villain. He's just nasty and bad. We do get a bit of a backstory here without going into spoiler, but there's not a sense of oh, he had a tragic past. He was a good guy, really. No, he's still an outright villain. He's still evil and sinister. I do like Scott Derrickson as a director. You know, you mentioned there the kind of different kind of filming aspects. I think there's kind of grainy 35mm look whenever we're in the dream elements, and then we have, you know, kind of the more perfect, you know, HD look whenever we're seeing it within the real world, which reminded me a bit of one of his early features, Sinister, which was another film I loved. It's nasty when it wants to be. I think it's surprisingly a 15. I don't think it's an 18. I don't think it's as good as the first feature. I think the first one I just loved because it took me by surprise. Blumhouse, Ethan Hawke, Scott Derrickson, and I love that film because it was just lean and efficient. I do think at 2 hours this is a little bit bloated, a little bit pulled out, but I'll not beat a film too much that kind of does try to flesh out its characters. It's doing things I want it to do, but I just think it is at 2 hours a little bit baggy. Now, Brian, you haven't seen this. You did text me at one point to go, do I need to see the Black Phone 1 before watching this? No, you didn't see the Black Phone 2, and then just before we started to record, you said, oh, actually, I have seen the first Black Phone, so I'm worried that maybe the first film for you wasn't that memorable that you'd forgot you'd watched it.
No, I caught up on it this week, and I knew it was a big movie at the time and stuff, but again, don't get to watch as much horror as I'd like to, and I enjoyed it. Watching it, I'm like, this is very Stephen King, and then the penny dropped. It's written by his son, but it's based on a short story, and I think a lot of short stories that are adapted into movies by Stephen King always feel a little bit, there's a great 40 minutes here. So I felt that with that as well. I thought the kids were probably unrealistic dialogue and unrealistic things that happened to the kids, but the the brother and the sister's performance were fantastic, and as you say, Ethan Hawke was great as well. It's a decent horror movie, you know. But interestingly, I was talking to Bill before. As soon as I finished watching, I'm like, I have to see the trailer for the second one. Where is this going? And when I seen the trailer for the second one, I literally went, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street. So if it's anyway as good as any of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, I'd definitely check it out, you know.
Yeah, it's up there for me. It's a lot of fun. I just think right now, and I know we don't really have time to kind of go into that kind of subject matter, but I just think right now we're getting a glut of really good horror movies. I think Black Phone 2 is very much like the blockbuster horror, the kind of slasher, but that's not a criticism. It's actually a big blockbuster horror movie, but it's done well. So on that note, we are going to move on. Earlier on, we mentioned about events happening in Belfast. Later this month, as part of the Belfast International Arts Festival, film critic Ryan Gilby is going to be at the QFT for an event, and a few weeks ago, I got a chance to speak to him over Zoom.
She has no goals or aspirations.
I think she has self-esteem issues.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm not going to tie a cherry stone into a knot with my tongue. Really?
This is John Francis. John, show her your chest tattoo. I'm like one bad romantic encounter away from moving to France and changing my identity.
What are you doing out here?
Social anxiety?
Film critic Ryan Gilby, pleasure to have you on our show. Ryan, you're going to be taking part in an event as part of the Belfast International Arts Festival, specifically at the QFT on the 28th of October. Buy your tickets, people. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So I've written a book that was published in June this year called It Used to Be Witches, which is a non-chronological treasure hunt through queer cinema. Past, present, and a little bit into the future as well. Kind of, you know, imagining what might be sort of coming up and the shape of queer cinema in the future. And it mixes 30 new interviews, mostly with directors, a couple of actors, and also the musician Tom Robinson, who famously did "Glad to Be Gay" in the 70s. So I've done these 30 new interviews. But the way that I wanted to tell the story of queer cinema was through the prism of myself as a queer man who spent 20 years of his life in straight relationships, and I have 3 children. And I thought, okay, well, does that disqualify me from telling the story of queer cinema, or does it maybe give it a different sort of angle? You know, I've come to. I'm now married to a man. I've been with my husband for 10 years. And, you know, I've got a life that might not, a queer life that might not seem kind of conventionally shaped from the outside. And initially that that did give me pause when I started writing this book. Like, how can someone who was in straight relationships for 20 years of his life and has 3 children, what right has he got to tell the story of queer cinema? And in writing the book, I kind of found out like what right I've got, and that queerness takes many forms, and actually my own thinking had been quite conventional even after coming out.
We opened this little interview with a trailer for Appropriate Behaviour, which you're going to be screening on the night. So tell us why you came on that film. It's a film I love, 2014, I think. Haven't seen it for a while. Yeah, you've given me an opportunity now to go back and revisit that feature. But tell us a wee bit about the film, why you picked it, and I guess you've mentioned the book. What will people be expecting on the evening?
So I'm going to be interviewed about the book, and then we're going to show, as you say, Appropriate Behaviour, which is written and directed by its star, Desiree Akhavan, an American-Iranian filmmaker. And it's a brilliant, very witty, very sharp romantic comedy. And I mean, I love the film anyway, but one thing when I was considering directors to put in the book, I was like, hang on, who is bisexual? And Desiree is a proud bisexual, and she flies the flag for bisexuality. And she says that, it would have been much easier for her to just come out as gay, but that's not her truth. Her truth is that she's bisexual. And the film is about that kind of struggle, like when you're regarded with sort of suspicion by the queer community, and where do you fit in? Where do you find your place? And it's one of those great films that is very specific. I don't think it's overstating the case to call it a bisexual Annie Hall. It's got that real kind of that real sort of comic energy to it, like Annie Hall.
Yeah, I think at the time, it reminded me of Frances Ha when I watched that kind
they were
of
out
set.
on the same time. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a film I love. As I say, I haven't watched it in a while. I remember when it was out, we championed it here at Banterflix. So yes, people who haven't seen the film are in for a treat. People who have seen the film are getting an opportunity to see it again on the big screen with an audience, which is something we'll always champion here. And of course, your lovely self, you will be there being interviewed. So Ryan, thank you very much for your time. As I always say, you have loads of people that I'm sure you need to speak to as well. We look forward to welcoming you to Belfast, and hopefully our paths shall cross again.
Thanks so much, Jim. Thank you.
There are people in this world who go on first dates that are perfectly great, and then they wait a while before they engage in sexual contact. It's disgusting. I know. I think it all happens outside of New York.
So that's my interview with film critic Ryan Gilbey. As I say, it's going to be at QFT on the 24th of October. It's part of the International Arts Festival. And as part of that event, they're going to be screening Appropriate Behaviour, a film I hadn't watched for a while, rewatched it after my chat with Ryan, forgot how much I loved it. And I think I mentioned it in the interview. Reminds me of films like Frances Ha, reminds me of those old Woody Allen films. Last week we were talking about Diane Keaton. Not talk too much about Woody Allen. We'll not delve into that. But I don't know if either of you had seen this before we asked you to watch it. Brian, I'll start with you. Did you enjoy the film?
No, I hadn't seen it before you asked me to watch it, and I questioned why you asked me to watch it. But as I said to Bill before we started filming, one of the best things about doing this show, and indeed when we done film studies together, is you see things that you wouldn't normally watch or indeed seek out. This is not something that's in my wheelhouse at all. It's not something that would show up on a streaming service and I go, oh, I'll watch that. So when you watched it, my preconceived notions was, oh, what's this going to be, And 5 minutes into the film, I couldn't turn it off. I really, really enjoyed this film. It has a real voice. Interesting you saying Woody Allen, and I don't know why that's just the New York vibe and stuff, but I get a real Curb Your Enthusiasm type of feel from it as well. Now, I'm a heterosexual male, ask my wife, but this is not...
She has questions.
So this is not a world where I kind of would know much about, but there's universal themes, It's really, really funny. There's so many comedy movies, modern comedy movies, and I know this is 90 years old, but you don't laugh, you maybe smirk or whatever, or bubble under yourself, but I was laughing out loud at a few of the scenes, and Bill and I have talked about them before we filmed. I would definitely seek out more of the filmmaker's work. I think she's great. She obviously writes and stars. I can't remember her name. Can you?
Desiree Shark.
Desiree. Yeah, and
if I'm getting the surname, her surname right.
Hopefully, yeah, Iranian and stuff. But I would love to see what else she's done. I know she's moved into TV and stuff. But really, really refreshing. Highly, highly recommended. Yep, really enjoyed it.
Well, I am delighted to hear that you loved it. I'm a little bit disappointed you and Bill are talking about everything before we get into the studio.
We finish each other's
sentences.
Yeah, hey, what can I say? You just a perfect little bromance. What was that you were saying? You were asking the questions about your lovely wife, but let's not pull on that thread anymore. But yeah, I guess it's the lovely thing about cinema. It's an, as Roger Ebert said, it's an empathy generator, and it gives you an opportunity to steal that idea from To Kill a Mockingbird, walk in somebody else's shoes, and see that there's similarities in their lives to ours. I absolutely love it. Bill, I can't remember, you hadn't seen this either before.
I watch this twice a week, Jim.
You're clearly a fan, so I know we're tight for time, but what do you think of this?
Yeah, I liked it. It was the same as Brian. Unless you're told about certain films to watch and stuff, it's you wouldn't have found this. If you hadn't told me to review it, I would not have watched it. And I'm glad it did, because, and Brian, you covered a couple of the points anyway that I was going to make, and that was, it reminded me very much of Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, because essentially when it starts off, it's almost like a setup for a joke, then a joke, next scene, setup for a joke, joke, next scene. And I kind of like that, and it was the sequence of the role playing just had me in kinks of laughter. I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh, I'm going to get punished, and she just turned. Well, actually, there's a form for that I can give you. You got to watch it in context. It's pretty good. But yes, it's one of those. I would urge people to go and see it, because it's essentially a breakup and the emotional processes the girl goes through. And she has the other struggles of, being in New York and having money issues and having to sort of almost squat in a place, and, having an Iranian family and having those kind of issues as well. And interestingly enough, the Star Wars connection.
Here we go.
The axe was the Green Jedi in The Acolyte.
That explains a lot. That explains a lot for that movie. So I'm delighted that you both enjoyed this. I really am. That's something on the big screen. Let's move on. Wrap up this week's show with our DVD of the week.
This can't all be true.
Every word.
CIA Black Vault break-in.
Am I reading this correctly? The Kremlin bombing?
In fairness, the bomb was actually meant to kill him.
He gassed a security briefing.
So that's a look at the trailer for Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Ethan Hunt bows out. No more IMF. For now, I think we will safe to say at some point the Mission Impossible franchise will be back. Maybe with Tom Cruise, we don't know. Christopher McQuarrie, we don't know. But, Brian, I thought of you instantly because this was out over the summer on big screen. You have been on the show before. You are a massive fan of little Tom Cruise, right? You love him. And Tom, if you're watching, you really should. Brian absolutely loves you. But I thought of you for this. So this is Tom bowing out. One last outing for the IMF team. What did you think?
Loved it. Surprise. I loved it. The Mission Impossible movies were my COVID watch. Everyone had a COVID watch, but I rewatched them all kind of during COVID. And then the next two come out in the cinema. And they are an essential IMAX watch for me. Opening day, and thankfully you've been able to get me a few preview screenings as well. So I usually go 2 or 3 times to see them because they're just pure popcorn fun, what cinema should be. Everyone talks about Tom Cruise and how he kept kind of the cinemas open with Top Gun Maverick. And he did, let's face it, you can't deny the numbers really, It's exhilarating, great set pieces, great cast. I think Hayley Atwell's a great addition to the cast. Love her in it. Simon Pegg, you know, the list goes on. Tom has absolutely made the end of his the twilight of his career. If he's the guy's a vampire, he probably lived till he's 100, you know. So, or he was a vampire in that movie Interview with a Werewolf. Was
something.
It? Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely would see more. I'm like you. I'm a wee bit dubious. I don't want the series to end. It was one of those ones where there's going to be a new movie in a year or 2 years, something to get excited for. So. But yeah, I'm hoping that there is more. But equally, anything he does, I'll go and see. Anything he does with Christopher McQuarrie, I'll go and see. You know, so highly recommend it. Great movie.
Yeah, I think they found a great kind of combination there of creative forces. Now, I love your enthusiasm for this. I went in to see this, saw it like you on the IMAX screen. I would fully say any of those type of films you want to see it in the biggest possible screen. I do think of the entries within the franchise, it's the most overcooked. I think there's just a lot of, you know, exposition very early on, a lot of stuff. Once it gets to the big set pieces, you go, right, let's sit back and enjoy this. We were talking about appropriate behaviour, about, you know, that idea for cinema, about being able to open up people to different worlds and different backgrounds. That's an important thing of cinema. This is a different aspect of cinema. This is bums on seats, as you said, Bran, you know, munching your popcorn, just sitting back. Let me check my brain out. I'm just going to watch what Tom's going to do for my entertainment. Will I give him a thumbs up or will I give him a thumbs down? I don't dislike it. I just think it's over. And there's the sequence of the submarine. I was on the edge of my seat, and then there's a sequence where I just think it goes too far. And you just, okay, we're into kind of Messiah almost-esque complex in this, and yeah, it delivers on the spectacle. I still think, you know, there's a few films back in the series are still, for me, the high water mark. The previous installment I loved the idea of AI. It just felt right on the money at that time with AI, the entity as they've dubbed it. I'm missing Rebecca Ferguson a little.
See, I agree.
I'm missing Rebecca
agree.
Ferguson. I love Haley Atwell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. And I think part of me now wants another installment just to say, right, because I think they've got this idea of like they have to try and top each one. I don't think they need. I think they just need to, they could do something smaller but deliver it on a bigger scale. Bill, where are you weighing in here before Brian and I get to fisticuffs?
Oh, here we go. It's always up to me. Let me limber up. Me to bring the reality. Okay. Right. I have not watched Mission Impossible since the second one. So I know there's about 50 or 60 films I have to watch, right? Now, I watched Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning I did not like at all. It was everything a Mission Impossible film should have been. And it's like, yeah, but there's 200 of these. Why are they all exactly the same? And that's what kind of irked me. So going into Final Reckoning, I was not happy at all. It was like, right, I have to sit for another 3 hours to watch number 850 in this, whatever it is.
These entries keep going up, Bill.
They're still going now. They're still making them. But anyway, so I watched it, and right from the start, I felt it was a totally different kind of experience. Right from the start, it lays it out, and it's got what the first one, not the first film, but like Dead Reckoning, whatever number it is in the centenary of it all. It's got what it was missing, and that was an emotional connection. And it had me. And so I was watching, and you're watching the set piece after set piece. You have already covered it, but it's like all these films are the same, and it's like, I think the French philosopher Jean McLean said it best when he said, how can the same merde happen to the same monsieur twice? And it's like,
because it's entertaining.
But it's like Ethan Hunt, and they to their credit, they do mention it in the film about, we could actually be sitting retired and doing all this sort of stuff. And I'm sitting on the cusp of 50 now, and I'm sitting here thinking, no, I don't save the world every day. I do it in my own wee way. We all save the world in our own little way. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I can part-time retire in 5 years. So I'm sitting here counting the time down. Why aren't they doing the same? And they do say, Ethan, you've been doing this for 30 years. Like said in the film. And it's like, yeah, he should be, I don't know, it's a glutton for punishment. Maybe it's all just a dream sequence, I don't know. But the bottom line is it entertained me, and I liked the whole juxtaposition at the end of like you've got this sophisticated AI that they're going to trap in this like glass crystal thing that's going to keep it alive for millions of years, and they end up fighting on a biplane. It's like, I get this.
It's a MacGuffin.
The whole MacGuffin thing is fantastic, and you're right. They could keep pumping these out, but I think they need to give it a rest. But I will say, yes, it had me. I thought the emotional stuff in it was good. Yes. The only thing I would say is they do seem to signpost a lot of the stuff early on. It's like, here's a submarine that might roll a wee bit. Here's a torpedo where he might get trapped on torpedoes. You know, and the biplane fight, it's like, here's the thing that he needs. It's round his neck. It's like,
every great meal has a starter.
But it's like aperitif after aperitif after aperitif. You know what I mean?
But could you not forgive its foibles?
Bill,
I've watched it.
I think that we all need to go now, and particularly you, after that hand gesticulation that was going on through that
kind of got away from me there.
Yes, I think we all need to go cool down, wrap up this week's show. The last thing I will say about Final Record was one thing I did want to make the point, and we've talked about it being a team, IMF team. I think this film took away from that, and it was very much like Ethan. Ethan is the only person that can save the day, where in the previous couple of films, it felt like an ensemble, and it felt like a team. It felt like a team effort. That's a terrible cough you have, Bill. But yes, we're going to go, and I don't know, we might end up going on Take the Streets of Belfast to fight it out to see what our thoughts of Mission Impossible is.
We're going to fight in a biplane somewhere.
But on that note, all that's left for me to do is thank my guests. So thank you very much, Bill.
Cheers, Jim.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Pleasure, Jim, as always.
Thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another episode. But for now, until then, goodbye.